Hi brothers and sisters. I hope the sound's picking up. I thought today we'd take a quick look at the topic of transformation, which we've looked at 2 or 3 times on some of our videos. And you'll see often in the occult world, particularly women's album covers and movie covers, you'll see this butterfly, right? And it's alluding to the transformation. And it is oftentimes the females that are the ones that you'll find with the butterflies. And there's a reason for that. If you go to Job 17:14, it says this, "And say to corruption, you are my father." Look at that. Corruption's our father, which is it's Baal, which is another word for our husband who wanted to rule over us. "And to the worm," there's the worm, "my mother or my sister." You see what the worm is? Now, if we understand the allegory here, and when I did the Doe of the Morning, and I did the more in-depth study, which was on the Ruth Abbey channel, I made the suggestion that the worm was allegorical to the woman and not to the man, and which is what they're trying to do in Psalm 22, because Psalm 22 is all about the righteous spirit of daughter Zion, known as the key of David, rejected by the first Adam. And so I was right, because here it's the worm which the mother and sister is being called. And the reason why what does the worm feed upon? It feeds upon the corruption that the father's feeding it. If you go to a rotten board on a house or on a door, oftentimes, if it's in a real dismal state of repair, you will find worms eating away at that rot, at that corruption. And so that's what we're looking at. In order for us as women to be transformed and renewed, all right, in our mind, we must stop feeding on the corruption of the father. That must be what we stop feeding on, because it states here it's the father is our corruption. And it is, because father is not our life giver. Our mother is our life giver. And Baal took that image of our mother away from us, and we began to feed on absolute corruption. Now, Romans 12:2 states this. It says, "Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then you will learn." Then you will learn what God's will is for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. So transformation does not happen until we are walking completely in God's laws and truth. That transformation cannot take place and Christ showed us that. Joshua showed us that. He was able to be resurrected 3 days after his death because he walked the laws of Mother Israel, known as God upon the earth. That's why he's the only begotten Son of God. He walked her laws. He was the only son to do so. And that was what he is trying to show us. They'll say you can't put wine in an old vessel, but clearly Christ showed us that the way to make a new vessel is to walk in God's truth, into God's laws. We're told Proverbs 1, they're wisdom's laws. Our mother, from above. And when we backtrack to Job 17:4, it says, "And say to corruption, you are my father." We began to feed on the corruption, on the lies. "And to the worm, my mother or my sister." Now, what does it say in Psalm 22, verse 6? It says, "But I am a worm, and not a man," it says, "a woman. I was scorned by everyone and despised by the people." And she was. She became the outcast that no man sought a covenant with. Now, when we go in and we look up the word worm here, it is a feminine, all right, and it is 7:4:15, and it means maggots or worm. Now, the interesting thing is where you get that red dye from, right, is a worm, and it comes out red blood. But aside, and there is a deeper allegory there to be looked at, if you go to the transforming of your mind in Romans 12:2, the word is 342, and it means renewal, and it's a feminine noun. So I think it's addressing the women that needs to change their perspective, and for more than one reason, of course. It really is on us to deliver our children into newness of life. And God says, before I do a new thing in the earth, I will tell you of it. So 342, renewal, noun feminine, renewing, a renewal or a change of heart and life, completing a process. So once you've walked in God's ways, God's laws, which intensifies, so it's kano, new, fresh, new. Before I do a new thing in the earth, I will tell you of it. It's from 2537, properly a new development, a new development, a new way of looking at things, a constant renewal of your mind, a constant transformation of your mind, a renewal achieved by God's power, a renewal, a renovation, a complete change for the better. All right, now, watch, and I'm going to pick on the women on this. And okay, let's read this one last verse. Colossians 3:5, 3:10, and have put on the new man, woman, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of the Creator. I ain't going to say him. Our Creator is not him. God says you are without excuse not to understand the Godhead. I manifest it in what I create. God did not create three males. Sorry. And one of them gives life. No, your Creator as your life giver, which is what it generally means mother. All you got to do is open your eyeballs. Quit walking in blind faith and shutting your ears to the truth, which is what we've been taught to do, because eventually the blind leading the blind is only going to lead you into a sepulcher, a ditch, a death with no water in it to cleanse you. And water washes you clean. That's allegorical to mother's law, to the daughter's law, to her words of truth. And we find that in Proverbs 5. We've done that in Song of Songs 4:12 to 4:15. So it's telling us how we are made in the image. And we are made in the image by being renewed in the knowledge after the image of the one that created us. And God says again, Romans 1:20, you're without excuse not to understand the Godhead. And the Godhead is not three males, it's a male and a female. In the beginning it was male and a female. The first Adam did not want her in covenant. He did not want to walk her laws. So what he does is he casts her down from the glory, and he creates his own law system. And over time we see him doing all kinds of nasty things to his other half. He gnashes at her with his teeth to take the spirit of her covenant out of the land, the spirit of righteousness, and that she comes under him to play his harlot. That's exactly what you're looking at. And so mother is speaking to her daughters, and she's saying, you've got to come out from all the corruption that you've been taught. And you have got to start teaching my law. You've got to start walking it. And that's why it says in Jeremiah 23, fine. You want to steal my word. You want to prophesy in yourself, in your own name, Father and Son. Baal, by the words of Baal, husband's mouth. That's how they want to prophesy. Then mother threatens them, and she says, don't worry, you'll be no burden to me. I won't deliver you. I'm not going to deliver you. You can die in your lies. And if you think you get to dismiss the divine feminine and leave her out of the context, then you are missing the truth. All right? So, what does it say in Job 39:17? We're going to take a look at this. I'm going to pick at the women like I sit here, which I do off and on. And we need picking at to open our eyeballs. So Job 39, verse 17 says this. What does it say? 17. Because God hath deprived her of wisdom. Who's this? The harlot spirit playing man's harlot. Neither he as the creator. No, he don't impart wisdom. Mother Wisdom does. It's a feminine for a reason. She deprived her of wisdom, neither has she imparted to her understanding. What time she lifteth up herself on high, she scorneth the rider, the horse and her rider. And where does that take us to? If we understand what we're looking at, it takes us to Dan's blessings, Genesis 49. And I'm soon going to have to be done. So we'll read this to make the connection. What does it say? Verse 17. Genesis 49, verse 17. Dan shall be a serpent. So there was a division going on within the daughters of Zion themselves at some point in time. So Dan shall be a serpent, by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse's heels, so that the rider shall fall backwards. And she did. She fell backwards. She fell on the ground, is what I was shown. And from then there, eventually, the spirit of that righteous covenant, the first covenant that Adam was to receive at the mouth of his wife, he cast her down. He didn't want her. He began to tell lies, and he accuses her. He accused her in the garden. And we linked a series of words to Adam as the accuser. And it'll take you through Satan, through Baal, through the devil. And all of those words from Old and New Testament is going to link you back to Adam as the accuser, who becomes Baal, the one who wants to lord and rule over you. And he begins to shoot words, is your understanding, with his sword, tongue. He cuts, and he brings her down, and with the bow he fires words at her. And we're shown that in Joseph's blessings in Genesis 49, 23, 24. He shoots at the daughters of Zion. So when we understand also that Dan was on the outer edges, is what it almost looked like. So God don't think like we think. I think God took God's strongest tribe. And Dan is allegorical to an eagle that soars. So Dan soared in the spirit in a sense. And so God would take God's strongest tribe, I would think, and place them up against the peoples that weren't of Israel. But eventually we saw the contamination of Dan coming in from the surrounding nations, and they did become contaminated. And Lachish is brought into the fray of the story when we begin to realize it's the women that were coming into the land, and the Danites, the men, appeared to be wanting them in covenant and falling for the lies that man could write his own laws. He didn't have to receive them at the mouth of these righteous daughters. And so we see all that in dispute, and we've discussed it over and over on many videos on both of the channels here, at least to some degree. So, you know, it's telling us, you know, how we become transformed. We become transformed by walking in those 10 commandments, and then we're seeing further understanding of what Mother God's laws, Mother Wisdom's laws entailed clearly in Isaiah 58, in Ezekiel 18, because you see Christ behaving in this manner. And you can say, well, that's Torah. No, Torah was man's law. That put a yoke on our neck, and that's the harlot's law that fed out from modern-day Israel and became the false foundation of our world. And we discussed how that came to be so. And so there's a quick look at transformation. I've been wanting to do this video. Just haven't had the energy or the time to really do it. So I thank you for watching my video. I appreciate anybody taking the time to understand this new theology. It is a renewing of our mind. We're to look at things and to always be led by the Holy Spirit. So I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. I thank you for watching my videos, and I hope you all have a really nice day. Thanks.